Hi, my name is Rayann Liang. I'm on the media team of Empathy Bytes. And yeah, we have a lovely guest today. And would you like to introduce yourself and just say a few things about what you do?
Sure. My name is Angela Gill Nelms, and Empathy Bites is at Georgia Tech. And so I am an alumna of Georgia Tech. So I love having this opportunity to have a conversation with you. A little bit about me. I've spent most of my career in the healthcare space in running clinical trials and then building a couple of companies. And now I would say maybe three or four different jobs that I work on. The main one is I am the director of Biolocity. What Biolocity is it is a philanthropic program that is out of Georgia Tech and Emory in the Department of Biomedical Engineering. And we fund projects that has IP either at Georgia Tech or Emory. So it's a faculty, staff, or student, and it has commercialization potential. So we identify these projects, and if they get accepted into the program, we provide them non-dilutive funding, and we also help project manage them for a year to really accelerate their speed to market. So that is my main full-time job. I also have a consulting agency called the AGN Group. And in that agency, we focus on working with clients either on branding, storytelling, team building and leadership workshops, or fractional management. And our goal with that organization is that we strongly believe every individual team organization has their own badass, which is the best they can be. And we work to help them reach that best, to be brave enough to reach that badass. And then the third thing that I do is that I'm the host of two podcasts. The most recent one is the Badass Leaders podcast, and I am the host of that. And I just love talking to amazing leaders with hopes of educating the community and the world on how to be a better leader.
So, as you're saying, you're the CEO of AGN Group. So, what kind of strategies do you use to foster kind of a culture of empathy within?
Yeah, I love that. Well, I think it starts at the core. And so there are a few of the core values of the AGN group, which you can find on our website, that are really tied around empathy. And I want to talk about values because I see a lot. I actually hate when companies throw their values on a wall or they put it on like a slide background or they put it on name badges and they don't follow it at all. They were whatever seemed as if they were appropriate at that stage of time that seemed cool. And I think now you could chat GPT. What should our core values be? And I am not telling you to do that. I'm telling you not
Hmm.
to do that. Because if you
Hmm.
want to have empathy and you want to create a safe environment, then you need to work with your team to create the values. So the ones for the AGN group, we created together. Like we had a Miro board and we mapped out like how do we really feel? Because I strongly believe your values should be the test that you put you and your team and your organization up against, specifically when you have hard decisions to make. And so, a couple of those values that really tie to empathy, one is we see humans as humans. And that is, we put people first and see humans as humans. And that is our top priority. Because when everything else is said and done, if we can just pause and realize we're collaborating with other humans and we want to get to know them because they're really important, then it will help us do the best we can in all areas. We also say that we follow through on the things that we're going to do. And that way people can trust us and they feel like it's a safe environment, which is really important when you're speaking about empathy. And then I think the other one that really ties to empathy is we work really hard to truly listen to what the other person is saying. So we try and focus on a listen first, respond later after listening and seeking to understand.
Yeah, I love that. I love humans to humans. Like, you never really know what someone is going through. So, just taking humans as humans, I think that's amazing.
Absolutely.
So I also know you're a director at Velocity. So could you share a moment like during your time at Velocity where empathy played a crucial role in your leadership?
Yep. I'm laughing because I've been at Velocity now for 5 weeks. And so
Uh-huh.
some might think 5 weeks is not enough time to have an instance.
Mhm.
Okay. In the very first week, I had an instance to be able to show this. And as I mentioned, Biolocity is this program where we will fund research that we believe has commercialization potential and that we can have an impact on helping it get to commercialization. And this means that we have teams we can't fund that submit. And so historically, what would happen is the teams would submit their proposal, and then a decision was made either, yes, they would do a recorded pitch, and the oversight committee would say, yes, this team should move to full pitch or not. And then the teams on decision day for that would get an email with a letter, and it would say, yes, you were accepted or you weren't. And here's some potential feedback in the letter. And I'm really big, as I mentioned, humans as humans and relationships. And I really want one of my goals with Biolocity is I want to increase the number of entrepreneurs. And I want to do that in a way that we encourage them and set them up for success. So instead of them seeing it as a blocker or a gatekeeper or a hard no, like you might get out in the VC world, instead, you see it as a collaborative effort with people who really want you to succeed. So this year, on day 5, my first big change was that we scheduled to have. I think I made this decision on day 5. We did on day 14 or day 10. It's like early on, and I just said, "Okay, this is what we're doing. I'm not sure if this is a
Mm-hmm.
good idea, but we're going to try it." And so instead of just sending the letters, we scheduled 15-minute meetings. And for every team, including the teams that were moving forward, we we had a conversation and we said, okay, here's the decision and here's the feedback. And I said, don't take any notes. You're going to get this at the end of the day. And so I want you just to absorb this, spend some time over the weekend. And then if you want to schedule a meeting with us, with our entrepreneurs and residents for free, to set you up for success, please do that. Because what we want you to do is we want you to take this feedback. And instead of this being a hard rejection where you're then spending the weekend really upset you didn't get the funding, instead, it is an opportunity for you to pivot or an opportunity for you to reevaluate the project. And it's really an opportunity for you to continue and grow in the journey. And I think having that, realizing it as an entrepreneur, at the times VCs would say to us no and give no feedback, that is
Mm-hmm.
awful. So having been in that situation before, I can understand what these teams are going through. And really, I want them to know that we care about them as teams and as individuals. We care about their technology and we want them to be successful.
Yeah, I love that. Maybe helping them redirect or move forward instead of just being like a total blocker where they don't know where they went wrong or like,
Yeah, they're doing a call with each other afterwards. Okay, well, what do we do next? Maybe, and oftentimes this is what will happen, right? Especially if you're in the VC world and you're pitching to VC, you don't get any feedback. Then you as a
Mhm.
team, you've learned nothing out of it a lot of times. Now there are ways to learn, but anyway, you've learned not much out of it. And you sit as a team, you're like, okay, well, we'll just apply to this. But
Mhm.
if you have an organization or teams that really care about you and they're
Mhm.
instead giving you some of that feedback, then as a team, you can say, okay, wait, here's the feedback we got. Do we need to get a consultant to help us with this? Do we need to do more research in this area? You're really, instead of just being rejected, you're like, okay, what is the next right decision we need to
Mhm.
make? And we already see that Biolocity is on tap to help us out. So let's reach out to them and become collaborators.
Yeah, I love that. It's like helping them learn from their mistakes.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Oftentimes we forget to have empathy for ourselves. And the biggest challenge that I have had is this was what actually happened on day 5. My program manager resigned to go work for another project. And I suddenly realized I basically have no team and I have to teach myself everything to do with the program all on my own. It's like, here's a OneDrive and mostly figure it out. And
Mhm.
I really paused to say, I am an overachiever. I'm a type A personality, right? I'm used to delivering, delivering, delivering. And I thought, would I expect somebody else to come into this position and nail everything perfectly in the situation that I'm at? No, I wouldn't. I would give them a lot of grace. I would help them. I would connect them with other people that want to see them succeed and help.
Mhm.
So I paused and thought, how would I react to somebody else in the situation? And then I flipped it on myself and said, okay, now I'm that person. So I'm going to give myself grace. I'm going to be transparent to people and say, I'm going to make a mistake. Balls are going to
Mhm.
be dropped. I just need your
Mhm.
support. And I'm going to
Mhm.
reach out to other people because I know there are people out there that want to see me be successful. And I'm going to
Mhm.
get those people on my team to help me. So I think the
Mhm.
opportunity to see a situation from an outside perspective of how you would treat somebody else if you're a caring individual really
Mhm.
helped me be really empathetic and compassionate and gracious with myself.
Yeah, I feel like we're often our own harshest critics. So it's really hard
Yes,
to like see it from a different perspective when we're evaluating ourselves.
absolutely.
So I know you also said you did some like consulting, so maybe also maybe speaking at motivational events. So can you share a story of how like an empathetic approach made like an impact on someone in the audience?
Absolutely. So I love doing keynote speaking and speaking at motivational events because I love the opportunity for someone to walk away and really just have some fire in their soul to live their best life. Okay. And I also do a lot of coaching for individuals on public speaking and help them. And I've said for literally decades that I have no fear of public speaking.
Mhm,
Until just recently, I had an opportunity where it was at an event and you could go up to the podium to provide a testimonial.
mhm,
And I knew I had a story to tell, but I was just like, no, Angela, you're not getting up there. They don't need to hear your story. All of these things in my head. And I had these two, people on my shoulders talking, get up. No, don't,
mhm,
And finally I said, fine, I'm going to get up. So I got up, and when I got behind the podium, I had the most surreal moment. I suddenly was super nervous. Like I was sweating, my heart was pacing, I was like
mhm,
wringing my hands. And I
mhm,
paused and I said to the audience, I told them that I've always said I have no fear of public speaking, but I am
mhm,
super nervous right now. And I am grateful for this moment because now I understand a little bit about what it feels like for all the people that I motivate and help teach how to do public speaking. I'm now sitting and experiencing in my body what they experience. And that's the greatest gift. And it was amazing because afterwards I had someone come up to me and they said, I know you said that you were nervous, but I couldn't tell you were nervous at all. And I
mhm,
said, you know what? Spot on. That is actually so much the case for so many people. So if we can often remember that the audience is really more listening to what we're saying and that's what they're focused on, they're not noticing as much all of these nerves that we think that they are. And so if we
mhm.
can let go and just be ourselves and rest in that, then we will be way more successful, both in public speaking and motivating others in every area of our life.
I totally agree with that. Sometimes when you just think too much in your head and you realize no one's noticing it at all but you.
Yes, exactly.
Kind of what techniques do you use when you're giving these storytelling speeches or any lessons you're teaching? Like, what techniques do you use to like kind of engage your audience?
I mean, one of the big things that I love to use is I am not a keynote speaker that I get up there and you're going to just sit and listen. I am going to say to the audience, raise your hand if you think this, or I'm going to do everything I can to allow the audience to become a part of the presentation. And the reason that I want to do that, and the reason I inspire other speakers to do that when they can, when it's appropriate, is because we all take more away from a situation when we have become a part of it. And so if
Mhm,
I engage the audience and I get them to, I used one example where I was speaking and I had hired a stylist because before that, my whole outfit, like my wardrobe was all black, right? And my stylist is like, you
mhm,
cannot wear all black all the time. And and so, I'm speaking and I'm breaking the ice with the audience. And I
mhm.
said, I hired a stylist. What do you guys think of this outfit? Like clap if you love it. And then I said, actually also clap if you don't love it, because I think I could get a discount back from the stylist if I don't get,
Mhm,
And it was just a moment to kind of break the ice and to get people involved. And I think that, that's up on stage. But if we, in all of our interactions, take a moment to just show that we're a human, I can say I have no style and I hired someone because they're smarter than me in that area, then when we allow others to see us as human beings and to
mhm,
engage in the conversation, then they learn more from it, they take more away from it, and they spread the message to other people. The whole point of much of what we're doing is this whole butterfly effect, right? We do something
mhm,
today, and you never know who that may touch multiple layers down. So the more engaged you can get individuals in the work that you're doing, the more it increases the possibility that your legacy will lead on and help improve the lives of others that individuals you will never meet.
Mhm. I love that. Just maybe seeing more eye to eye instead of like, oh, I'm the speaker, you're the audience, just being like,
Yep,
and
absolutely. Absolutely. I'm going to try not to trip over this microphone cord, but if I do, we're all going to agree right now that it's okay to laugh first and
uh-huh.
then send someone out to make sure I'm okay. So now we're all
It'll
the
be a
same commitment that we have.
it'll be a great blooper.
Exactly. I love the bloopers.
So I also know you host two podcasts. So kind of how do you create an empathetic and just welcoming environment for your guests when they share their stories?
I love that. So, and it's really important. I've actually been a guest on a few podcasts where they felt very stuffy and
Hmm.
very just bland questions, and you didn't feel like you were connecting to the host at all. So, one of the ways that I do for both of the podcasts is I use a conversational style. So, I really work in the beginning to find out and have the guest share who they are as a human being, back to humans as humans. So not what their title is, not what the accolades are, or the necessarily the topic, if it's the mental wellness podcast, that particular topic, but who was the guest as a human being? Like, tell us who you are. And oftentimes people love to talk about themselves. And so when you do that, then they put their guard down and they're more comfortable, which is really important. And then I also, for my Badass Leaders podcast, I have the option where guests can come in person. And
Hmm.
so for that situation, I have a sign that goes out the front door that says AGN Studios welcomes Badass Leader, and it has their name on it. So as they're walking, before they even enter into the building, they see their name and they see that I'm reminding them they were selected because we've decided they're a badass leader. So it gives them that sense of I belong here, I'm supposed to be here, and I fit in. And then they walk in, and on all the screens, it has the exact same thing. We have a green room that has snacks and they can freshen up. And then Phil Stevens with Bedhead Media helped me design the studio, which has so many of my favorite things and is really intended to be comfortable and relaxing. So we can really get to the heart of what the conversation is. In that podcast, it's about leadership and it's about trying to inspire the current and next generations of leaders to truly be amazing leaders and give them tips and tricks and lessons learned from some current amazing leaders. So by creating that comfy environment, you really allow people, it actually increases their level of creativity as well, because it
Hmm.
decreases that nervous factor and they relax and they really start to tell you the stories that help them be successful that will help others do the same thing.
Yeah, I love that. I love your little setup. It seems so homey and just such a nice place to be.
Thank you. Yeah. So, really, what was really cool is on the first episode that was released, it was not the first episode that was recorded, but it was the
Hmm.
first episode that was released because I had picked this particular guest and I really wanted him to kick off the podcast. And it's Scott Wozniak and he's the author of the book, Make Your Brand Legendary. And in the book, he talks about it's basically the book Raving Fans that was written back in 93. And he took that book and it's like on steroids. It's all the ways you can help create raving fans. And
Hmm.
so in the interview, we are talking about personalized moments and memorable moments and how you can create those for customers. And he starts describing the setup and he was like, well, Angela, you did this. You can listen to the episode to hear this. He said, as soon as I walked up, I saw my name and then I came in and then I had a comfortable private place to kind of gather myself and get ready. And he was basically giving me kudos for some of those things that I had built in on my own podcast, which is like never happens. It was like, it was so
Hmm.
amazing. But it was great to hear that even him as an expert in how to do this, he even felt the love and the appreciation. So you can imagine how someone who's not an expert and isn't expecting something like this would really feel in that moment. And that was truly a special moment.
Yeah, I love that. I love that he was able to recognize and he chose to like speak up about it and just let you know how comfortable he felt.
Yeah, I was like,
So
I'm not paying you any money for that.
I'll take the compliment.
Yeah, exactly. I'll take the compliment.
So those are all the questions I have, but did you have any last remarks for this interview?
I think what I want to remark is that there are a lot of different definitions of empathy, and a lot of individuals see it in different ways. I think at the core of empathy goes back to those values that we have at the AGN group, and it is seeing humans as humans. And if we can, I strongly believe that humans are innately good and they want to do good. And when we see instances where that's not displaying itself out in the world, it's often because some other factor is impacting that human being and it is leading to that reaction. It could be that they had an argument with a spouse that morning, that it could be that they're suffering from depression, that their parent is uh, illness or health is failing. It could be that they're struggling with debt. It could be that they're arguing with their teenage kid about math. That was me at one point, right? And they're just tired and frustrated. And sometimes when we interact someone and they come across to us as rude or inconsiderate or disrespectful, then it can become very easy to put a tag on that person. Like that person is a jerk or that person is this. And we tag these characteristics to them. But if instead we'll pause to remember that person is a human being that likely has other things happening to them. And if I can remember that oftentimes the reaction has nothing to do with me, then I don't take it personally and I don't have to respond in a negative way. So instead, I can respond in positivity or I can respond in patience or being calm. And I can actually live a much happier life because I'm not going around thinking all these people are evil. Instead, I'm understanding they are humans and I'm seeing them as humans. And I think that's the greatest gift we can give ourselves, our community, and to the other individual.
I love that. So thank you so much for your time, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
My pleasure. Same to you.
Thank you.